Oh my God, I'm just gonna jump right into this one because there's so much to talk about and it's so fresh on my head. I just got to see the Cybertruck in person for the first time, and it completely changed everything I thought about the truck. First and foremost, this thing is huge. It is so wide and it's completely intimidating at first because it's just one big block chunk of steel. And you're like, whoa. Especially for someone like me who's a smaller guy in height, stature and all that stuff, standing up to this thing was completely gigantic in like all the right and cool ways. Elon a couple months ago said that the Cybertruck was about 5% too big and they were gonna have to reduce it. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. I see it and I'm thinking this is not gonna fit in my garage. I have a single car garage and it won't fit if I get this truck. He then later on goes on to say that even 3% smaller is too small and that he wants to keep it what it is. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I really hope that's not the case. Physically, where I live right here now, I don't think I can accommodate something that huge. Now, one thing that I do want to point out right from the offset, I am very much aware and I know that this is a prototype. There are certain elements that I saw that seemed off, like gaps in the components. Will it have side mirrors in the final production? What about the headlight? It's very, very thin. I think about the headlight and I remember when it first came on stage, it shot a single beam out. And I'm like, that's the future, that's cool. But then when you actually see it on the road, you actually see two headlights. So, you know, certain things I'm like, I don't know what's gonna be final production and what's gonna die with the prototype. My wife pointed out when you actually look at it up close, it does look like a bunch of cardboard boxes. It's covering the actual vehicle. And that's an interesting thought. And I kind of understand what she means by that because that's what it does look like. It doesn't look like an actual vehicle because it's all sharp, straight edges. There's no curvatures, there's no circles. So it just looks like the real truck is hiding underneath. By every sense of me trying to describe this thing, it just looks like a movie prop. It does not look real. Especially because we went through the museum portion of the museum and I looked at old cars like the Model T. I looked at revolutionary cars like the first original 2008 Roadster, which was really cool to see in person, as well as, you know, like the first 2009 Model S, all those things. It's really cool. But then we actually get to the end of the museum and we're walking through a bunch of futuristic concepts that look really cool, extremely breathtaking, and futuristic. But we know it's a concept. And then when you're done, you walk out and you're right back in the main lobby where the Cybertruck is at. It's the star of the show. And then you start to think that all these things are concepts, but this thing right here is not. This is something we're going to get, that we're going to buy. It might not look completely like what we saw there, but 90 to 95% of it is what the final product is going to be. Tesla has said it. And when you realize the difference between looking at a concept that looks so cool and you want to just live in, and then you look at something that is attainable and it's achievable, it really changes your mindset on what a truck is going to look like, or at least their truck is going to look like and behave like going forward once it starts shipping. One thing that always held me back was that the Cybertruck always felt like not a truck. I'm trying to get on board with this thing, but it's not what you expect a truck to look like. With the bed and the everything, it just looks like something else. But then I stopped comparing it to a truck when I got to see it in person. And I started comparing it to more like a space shuttle or something like a rover on Mars or something. And you're like, yes, this is actually something I can get behind. The moment you stop comparing it to a truck and you compare it to like a new category of vehicle, the intimidation factor, the stigma behind it, at least for me, it went away. Because it's no longer a truck of what I'm always used to seeing since the day I was born. It is now a new category of truck, the same way my Model 3 is a new category of car. Elon said that this truck belongs on Mars, and he is absolutely right. Looking at it, this is something that is meant to be completely out of this world. Now, things that I've noticed about the truck overall that kind of I can only understand when I saw it in person is that it's not as shiny as it looks like on the videos or in the photos or in concepts of it, but it does reflect. If you compare it to a stainless steel iPhone, this is more reflective. Though it is warped and you don't actually like see yourself the same way, it is more reflective. The Cybertruck, that ain't it. But it's not brushed stainless steel. The best way I can say is that it is reflective, it's just not mirrored. It does look like it has been waxed and cleaned regularly, and that's what those circles that you can kind of see on the front hood and throughout the body of the truck are, at least to me. I don't think that's a design thing. I think that's just cleaning it and keeping it somewhat upkept and presentable. So yeah, I'm not sure that the final version is gonna have those circles that you see on the exoskeleton, or if that is just maintenance. The cabin does feel like a Model 3. It's very minimal, and you just have the display and you have the steering wheel up front, which I love. That's one of my favorite things about the Model 3. I love the minimalistic design. It makes me feel not distracted or cluttered. One thing to note that has been already reported is that when it was first announced, you saw like this marble dashboard on the front, and it's not there anymore. It's been replaced by just a pure white, the same white that you would get if you got the white interior. It's like that. The display does not look like the same display I have in my car. It looks more like a iPad Pro. It's squared and it's more boxy or boxier, and it just looks more industrial. It fits the aesthetic of the Cybertruck. The steering wheel I absolutely love, and I hope it stays for the final production version of it, because something about that just feels like you're flying a spacecraft or a jet or something. It feels different, and just I want to be in control of it, because it's either gonna have full self-driving, so you're not driving, or you can drive but you feel like you're operating a tank. I love that. The bed looks huge. Like if they are gonna reduce it, I can see them taking some off of the back on the bedside, because it just looks really huge. Now I wasn't actually able to see the bed completely because it had the covering on it, I was to see the buttons and how the covering would go down and protect it. But just looking at it up front, it just looks huge. Huge. Everything. Theme of the day of the video, huge. So if you like stuff like that, yeah, this is it. You can really notice how wide the Cybertruck is when you do stand at the back where the bed is, and you can just see, because it doesn't shoot out this way or this way, it's just straight, and it is the equivalent of those heavy-duty Ford F-350 types, for sure. But heavier, bigger, it just feels like this thing could take a beating. And likewise with the tires. The tires are custom, they're giant, completely chonk mode, and it reminds me of a military-grade Hummer vehicle or tank, anything. It is meant for all terrain. And that's dope. It's not trying to be something attractive. It is trying to be something useful. Its purpose is to be a workhorse, not a show pony. Function over form. And that's why it's controversial, because it's being compared to a Ford or the same truck over time, and it's just not. It's not the same. They're different. One thing that I noticed, that it being a full stainless steel exoskeleton, so the body, the skeleton is the vehicle, is that over time it's going to get scratches and dings on it and all these other things that you would get with other stainless steel products, which then it starts to warp it over time. And some people are like, I don't like that. To which I would say, again, it is not meant to be a show pony. It's not meant to be part of your collection of good-looking vehicles. It is meant to be a work truck, a workhorse, a work whatever. It is meant to get dirty. It is meant to become uniquely different when it starts to age over the years, the same way leather changes over time. The leather you buy at the beginning is not the leather you'll have at the end. It changes, it warps. I compare it to leather. And yeah, that's it. I can't think of anything at the moment. As my first impressions, this is absolutely phenomenal, and changed my mind, where I was kind of like on the fence. I don't know one way or the other, because my wife was wanting to get it regardless, so I didn't really have a say in the matter. Now I actually have an opinion, seeing it in person. And if you are on the fence about it as well, or if you really don't know how to feel about it, I'm with you. I was there with you. I understand that weird hesitation. And believe me when I say that if you are a believer of Tesla's vision, if you believe that it's not trying to just be different for the sake of being different, but it's serving a purpose, then believe me when I tell you that this is it. This is the future. This is what a truck should be. especially when you start looking at the specs and you compare it side by side. A tri-motor that's gonna cost $70,000 to a regular truck that's gonna cost $70,000. And when you compare it side by side, the Cybertruck is gonna win every single time. If your biggest negative to it is I don't like the way it looks, you will get over that very quickly, the same way people get over notches on phones, no grills on electric vehicles, and anything else that's strictly cosmetic, because at the end of the day, that's subjective. Spec for spec, those are facts. Those are things that's like, this is meant to just be what it is. And I'm sold. First impressions, overall, good. The negative that I have, I will reserve judgment to when I see the final product, because the prototype alone might not be fair to get at it with a fine-tooth comb and start really like, this is off, this is weird, this is dirty, this is scrap. I'm not gonna judge it off of that. I will judge it as an overall presentation. Granted, I know it's in a controlled environment. I wanna see the truck outside in light to see how reflective it is. I wanna see all these things, but for what it is and the presentation I was able to see, it meets all the check marks. Tesla straight up just knocked it out of the ballpark, again. This is why it's the most talked about vehicle. This is the most reserved pre-order truck ever, because even the skeptics and the enthusiasts alike all have eyes on this because they're expecting it to be something historic when it comes out. You can make concepts all day and make all the coolest things, but to make something in mass production, that's the real feat of engineering. That's the real testament. Whew, this was a very long review or first impressions, but all the same, I hope you enjoy the B-roll that you saw. I hope you enjoy the feedback. Let me know your thoughts. What do you think about the Cybertruck? Are you with me on the sense that now you're sold, or are you still on the fence, or you're like, I'm not about it? The deal breaker for me, truly, even though I'm sold, deal breaker, it's too big. There's no other way around it. It's too big for my current lifestyle. It will not fit where I live. If I buy a house, I get the 2-car garage or something, then it's different. Yeah, it'll be different then. But what are your thoughts on that? If you are interested in hearing a more in-depth review of my first impressions of the truck, in the description there is going to be a link to my EV podcast called Tailosive EV. It will be on the Tailosive Podcast channel, and if you want to see the hour review of us kind of going over it, go take a look. It's gonna be out around this time the video this comes out. Either way, you will find it right down there. Also down there is my Tesla referral code where we can get 1,000 supercharge miles for free, and evidently a lot of you guys are using the referral, and I thank you so much for it. I'm so excited that you trust my feedback on Tesla and it was enough to make you get one. And that is phenomenal. I'm here to be a representation for you guys if you're on the fence. And much like how I was about getting my Model 3, I needed to see the Cybertruck, and it is absolutely amazing. So this is not the last time we'll be talking about it. This is probably not the last time I'm gonna see it. If I know my wife, she's gonna get it. But for now, this is where I'm gonna end it. So thank you for watching, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Take care.